Hey everybody, Jake Reichbart here, and if you ever wanted to arrange for the solo fingerstyle guitar format any song of your choosing, and you couldn't find one online, or maybe there's too many of them and you don't like them and you're tired of looking at endless tabs, you have come to the right video, because today I'm going to start you on your journey of arranging any song that you'd like to the solo fingerstyle guitar format. I'm going to share with you an incredibly simple to understand method that I call melody and bass only. And not only is this principle very simple to understand, although it will take some work to execute, but you don't have to know any theory, any harmony. Heck, you don't even need to know the names of the chords you're playing, although of course that is useful. Nevertheless, with this method, I'm going to start you on this journey, so stick around. And first of all, what is solo guitar? Well, the name implies it all pretty much. It's solo, just you, meaning no bandmates, and also no backing tracks. So it's just you, two hands, hopefully 10 fingers, and just 6 strings. 7-string players, you are welcome to watch this video as well. And that's it. And there are multiple benefits to doing this. Well, first of all, it doesn't take away anything from your other favorite styles of guitar playing. If you are a lead player in a band, it doesn't take anything away from that. In fact, it will only give you a greater understanding of the neck, how to find the notes, and so forth. But there are additional benefits. Emotionally, first of all, like I said, if you have a favorite song, something from your childhood or some hit song from the 80s that nobody else remembers, but you know, it's something that's in your head, and if you can sit there and create an arrangement all by yourself and play it, I assure you there's nothing more satisfying than that. It's a great exercise, you know, training your brain to do things that you're not used to doing. And you know what? Financially as well, because you could line up 15, 20, let's say 25 or 30 songs, something like that, a couple dozen tunes. And if you can create enough solo guitar arrangement, like I said, a couple dozen tunes, why not go out on the street and busk, or to your local restaurant or coffee shop and see if you can get a gig and make a little extra money? So, you know, emotional satisfaction, intellectually challenging, and a little bit of money, what's there not to like? So today I'm going to start you on this journey. I mentioned this method that I'm going to show you today that I call melody and bass only. And this does require something on your part, some kind of a skill. And that skill is to be able to pick out the melody of the song that you're choosing to work on the guitar. In this case, I fingered the melody this way. Or let's say that's one of the ways that I might play it. The fact of the matter is you can play it in 10,000 other ways because, of course, most of the notes on the guitar neck appear in multiple places. You know, this G right here that I started with, it appears here as an open string, and also here on the 5th string, and furthermore on the 6th string. Some of them are less practical than others, but the fact is that if you multiply each note that can be played in multiple places by the next note and by the next note by the next note, you'll come up with countless ways to play the same melody. So the question becomes, well, how do I play this melody? And the answer obviously is going to be, it depends on what else you do at the same time. If my first bass note, and I'm going to get to how to choose the bass notes and all that in just a moment. If my starting point is here, this C note, which you can also play here, but if I'm starting it here, obviously that G note is going to have to be something in the nearby area. So it could be this one. It can also be this one. So we'll get to that in a second. All right, so we talked about the melody that you need to pick out. So what you want to do is pick out this melody and try to play it as closely to the original as possible. One way to do that is to sing along. I don't know if I remember all the lyrics. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. Something, words of wisdom, let it be. And I apologize for my voice there, but I think the idea is there. You sing along and find where that melody is just by singing along with it, or sitting with a record and figuring out the melody. I picked the key of C for a reason that I'm going to demonstrate to you, that I will explain shortly. But nevertheless, that's what you want to do in terms of picking out the melody. What you will notice is that the melody has a contour. Many of the notes are going to be syncopated. So we're setting the melody aside for a moment. And at the same time, what you're going to want to do on this side, separately for the moment, is to play a very simple bass line. That simple bass line can consist simply of playing quarter notes on the root notes of the chords as they go by. So I'm doing this in the key of C. My first chord is going to be a C major. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. So those are my first chords: a 1, 5, 6, and 4, if you know those terms, which you don't have to know, like I said in the introduction. But if you happen to know those, you know that helps. That is actually helpful. Anyway, so while I'm doing this, I want to play when I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, and so on. So inadvertently, I just demonstrated here what you need to be doing with your hands. You just played that simple bass line, and I sung it. So instead of singing it, you want to play that melody on the guitar. So let's do exactly that. When I find, what you'll notice is that when I play this G note to start with, that is not the downbeat of the song. The third one is when I find, and that's when I hit the C. When I find myself in. So it's important to know where you are in the tune. So it's that third G note that is on the beat. So we play these together. The G in the melody and the C, which is the bass. Now these two notes, the A and the E, they were syncopated. They came in between the bass notes. And that's a big deal. Same thing here. Syncopation. Same thing here. These last two notes in the phrase were syncopated. And they came kind of in between the bass notes. Same thing here. And this is at the heart of what I'm getting at. The melody will have its contours and syncopations, and the bass note is steady on the beat. And it's by the virtue of that alone, of each of these two parts having its own unique rhythm, you're creating the arrangement. That's the basis of the arrangement. Everything else that we're going to do on top of that is going to be extra. Fuller chords, some rhythm. So all the other elements will come later, but this is the foundation of the arrangement, just by being able to play these two parts, each with its own unique rhythm. I'll put it together now and go a little bit further in the tune, and then I'll explain why I chose the key of C. And why did I pick the key of C for this? Because it's easy to visualize the piano, the keyboard. Everything that we played so far was diatonic, meaning strictly in the key of C. Meaning that on the piano, all of this could be done by playing just on the white keys. And not only that, the way it would be played is one finger with the left hand would be playing these simple bass notes, and one finger with the right hand could be playing the melody. If we saw a piano player doing that, we would not be very impressed, I think. But doing it on the guitar somehow is genius. So that's a great advantage to us, because we can do something that musically actually is quite simple, but because people are not used to it, you know, it sounds remarkable. Now, to be fair, the reason on the piano, you know, it's easy to do because the musical division is more horizontal, right? So the further right you go, that's the melody notes. The further left you go on the piano, that's the bass notes. And they're played by for the most part, there's some chords as well. For the most part, they're played with the separate hands. This hand is in charge of the bass note. This hand is in charge of the melody, generally speaking. On the guitar, it's a lot more complicated because any finger with the left hand can be playing the bass note or the melody note. So that's kind of confusing right there. And the division is more vertically this way. For the right hand, generally, yes, I play the bass notes with a thumb, but even then there's some crossover. So it's a little bit more challenging to the mind, I think, to do it on the guitar, but yet, like I said, the musical principle is so simple that if we can internalize this and just make sure to play the melody with its contours and syncopations, like I said, while playing a steady bass line, I mean, that's the arrangement right there. One more thing that's interesting to observe is that if you watched this video right now with the sound off, you would think that I'm playing chord shapes. And this is part of the mental process here. For example, when I played this, that looks like an A minor 7. This looks like an F. This looks like a C. But I'm not thinking that way. I'm thinking strictly the notes that I'm aiming for. It just so happens, like I said, that the fingers are laid out in such a way that it looks like a chord. This looks like chords, but it's the melody notes that I'm aiming for. So that's what you need to focus on. A few side benefits that are starting to creep in is when we play melody notes on adjacent strings, we are creating a harmony inadvertently. Right here, after I played these two notes, I let them ring. There's kind of like your C6 if you'd like. These melody notes were played on adjacent strings, and every time I played a melody note, I let it ring into the next one. So inadvertently, each melody note becomes the accompaniment of the next melody note. So it's kind of like a G sus or whatever. Not much here, but again, that's a chord shape. You could probably play that whole A minor because that's kind of, it's right there. C sus. And just one more thing before we finish for today's lesson. You might ask, is this how you play your arrangements for real? And the answer is yes, actually. Let's think about the original recording of Let It Be. It starts with a voice and some simple instrumentation, and later it builds up with the drums. Imagine I did something like this for musical reasons, not for demonstration of a method reason. I would start like this. What we've done. And then And there you have it, melody and bass only. That's like 85% of all solo guitar. Everything else we're going to cover later on. But for now, this is a great way to start on your solo fingerstyle guitar journey. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. And once again, on behalf of TrueFire, I'm Jake Reichbart. Thank you very much.